Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Normal Guy of the North here, and today we're driving operational clarity into part 2 of the biggest pain points that consistently get players deleted early in World of Warships. In the first video, we explored 5 foundational mistakes that shape poor outcomes. Today, we're leveling up that conversation with 5 new systemic problems, and I'm counting down the top 5 that have the highest impact on your survival, your influence, and ultimately, your win rate. These aren't generic talking points. These are high-value decision-making failures that directly shape your ability to control match tempo. If you can internalize these, you're going to find yourself consistently outlasting, outpositioning, and outthinking the average lobby. So with that, let's get right into number 5. Number 5 is burning your damage control. The moment you take a single fire or flood. This is a classic short-term panic response that kills more players than any HE shell ever will. Most players hit that damage control button instantly and feel great about stopping the burn. But what they've actually done is open themselves up to catastrophic follow-up damage. When a cruiser starts stacking fire chances on you, that first fire is not the threat. The threat is the 20 to 30 seconds of shells already inbound. When a carrier tags you with a single flood, that's not the danger. The danger is the second and third flood coming while your DCP is locked for 60 seconds. The mindset shift here is understanding that damage control is not a healing button, it's a risk management asset. You are allocating a scarce resource to mitigate a future threat, not the current one. Instead of reacting instantly, apply structured patience. Ask yourself, am I spotted? Am I under sustained fire? Are there more squadrons inbound? If you're visible and taking continuous punishment, you hold DCP. It is mathematically better to burn for 10 or 15 seconds than to get triple fired for 45. That usage discipline is what creates survivability margins that compound across the match. In higher tiers, survival time equals influence time. If you survive, you shape the mid and late game. If you die early, you lose all operational agency. Strong DCP discipline is one of the highest ROI habits you can build. Now let's move to number 4. Target fixation. This one is subtle because the game rewards it with dopamine hits. You see a broadside cruiser, you see a low HP battleship, you see a carrier you desperately want to punish, and your focus locks in. But the problem is that fixation disconnects your actions from the strategic priorities of the match. Shooting the target that feels good is not always shooting the target that wins. A battleship chasing a low HP cruiser on the flank is wasting the salvo needed to stop the destroyer contesting the cap. A cruiser farming a battleship in the backline while a sub is lining up a kill shot on your DD is misallocating influence. A destroyer trying to finish off a target 12 kilometers away instead of screening a push is surrendering tempo. The critical shift here is to move from what damage can I farm to which target actively influences the next 90 seconds of this match. Every time you fire, you are trading your reload timer for strategic leverage. If that trade doesn't advance map control, spotting denial, angle disruption, or cap security, you are losing value even if the damage looks good on paper. Great players understand that certain targets must be removed because they maintain tempo, not because they're low health or broadside. They pick the right target at the right moment, aligned with the needs of the team. That discipline is what separates tactical play from reactive play. Continuing with number 4, the other failure point inside target fixation is emotional targeting. Players shoot the ship that annoyed them, the ship they missed earlier, or the ship that insulted them in chat. And that emotional bias destroys decision quality. If you find yourself chasing a ship simply because you want to kill them, you've already broken alignment with the win condition. The moment you reroute your guns to satisfy an emotional objective, you create gaps in map coverage that smart players exploit instantly. Your guns must serve positional outcomes, not personal vendettas. Now let's transition into number 3, which is misreading pressure, either overpressuring or underpressuring. This mistake is everywhere. Players push when the map is screaming retreat, and they retreat when the map is begging for controlled aggression. Pressure is not about moving forward. Pressure is about applying force at the right time, from the right angle, with the right support. Overpressuring is when a destroyer charges into a cap alone because someone has to go. Underpressuring is when a cruiser sits behind an island for 4 straight minutes, even though their team has irreversible advantage. In both cases, the player has misread the operational tempo. Pressure is a currency, and your ship has a finite amount of it. If you spend it too early without support, you bankrupt your survivability and collapse the flank. If you never spend it at all, you lose control of the map and allow the enemy to dictate terms. Good pressure is applied when the enemy is reloading, turning, disengaging, outnumbered, or mispositioned. Bad pressure is applied into crossfires, into torpedo angles, into subs you can't kill, or into radars you haven't tracked. Most deaths in this game happen not because someone played aggressively, but because someone played aggressively at the wrong time. Under-pressuring is equally damaging. When you have ship's advantage, HP advantage, crossfire advantage, or cap advantage, and you still refuse to move up and convert that into positional dominance, you hand the opponent free recovery time. This is why so many matches collapse late. The team that should have pushed didn't, so all the early game advantages evaporated. The operational takeaway is this: pressure should always be intentional. Don't apply it just because you're impatient. Apply it because the map has validated the opportunity. Number 3 continues with one additional nuanced tempo windows. Every match has micro windows of opportunity that last 10 to 20 seconds. An enemy battleship is angled to your teammate but broadside to you. A destroyer uses their damage control and now can be set on fire. A cruiser has just reversed too far and exposed their citadel. These are tempo windows, and great players capitalize instantly. Misreading pressure often means failing to see these windows and instead taking action when the window has already closed. You want to be ahead of the timing curve, not behind it. Let's move to number 2. Playing your ship instead of playing the lobby. This is one of the most widespread and persistent mistakes in the entire game. Players load into battle and immediately begin executing a predetermined script for their ship. A destroyer goes to their cap, a battleship pushes their flank, a cruiser parks behind their island, a sub heads to their ambush lane, but none of these decisions account for what's actually in the lobby. If you play your ship without playing the lobby, your outcomes will always be inconsistent. Players must assess the entire threat environment. How many radar ships? How many torpedoes can be pushed into your space? Is there a carrier that will aggressively spot you? Is there a sub with homing torpedoes that will deny your preferred flank? That assessment dictates your opening position, your risk tolerance, your angles, and your early game tempo. Playing your ship without understanding the lobby is like walking into a storm because the calendar says it's sunny season. It ignores the operational realities that define the match. When you play the lobby, you build your game plan around the enemy's tools, not your preferences. If the flank is heavy with torpedo threats, you adjust your positioning. If the enemy has strong radar coverage, you delay your entry into contested zones. If the carrier is clearly targeting your flank, you leverage island cover and disengagement angles. The players who consistently survive past the midpoint of the match are not the players who know their ship best. They are the players who understand the lobby best. They adapt before the engagement begins. Playing the lobby also includes understanding your team's limitations. If both of your destroyers are gunboats with poor concealment, you can't play for early cap control. If your cruisers lack radar, you cannot expect them to counter enemy destroyers. If your battleships are long-range snipers, you cannot expect them to push with you in the first 5 minutes. Many players die because they assume support exists that simply isn't there. If you need something from your team that they cannot or will not provide, then your plan is invalid before the match begins. Align your expectations with your team's capabilities, not your hopes. Now let's move into number 1, the single most impactful mistake in World of Warships today, not accounting for hidden information. This mistake gets more players killed than any other decision failure because it breaks the predictive framework that high-level players rely on. Most players only react to what they see on the screen, not what they don't see. They act as if unspotted ships do not exist. But missing information is still information. If a destroyer hasn't been spotted for 2 minutes, you cannot assume they rotated away. If a radar cruiser disappeared behind an island, you cannot assume they won't pop radar the moment you enter the cap. If a sub isn't spotted on your flank, you cannot assume they aren't repositioning into your angle. Everything unspotted has intent. Destroyers disappear for a reason, they're setting up torpedoes. Subs disappear for a reason, they're repositioning. Cruisers go dark for a reason, they're staging. Battleships go dark for a reason, they're pre-aiming an angle. The moment you assume that missing information is irrelevant, you walk into a trap the enemy set minutes earlier. High-level players are constantly scanning the map for absences, not just presences. They track the radar ships that haven't used radar. They track the destroyers that haven't surfaced. They track the battleship that hasn't fired. And because they track them, they don't get blindsided. A strong operational principle is this: every unspotted enemy has a job they are trying to complete. Your job is to predict what that is. If the enemy destroyer has not been seen on the other flank and the cap near you suddenly stops ticking, that destroyer is in your space. If a cruiser disappears near an island, radar is coming. If a sub hasn't been spotted and your battleships start turning out, that sub has moved into a firing lane. When you shift from reacting to predicting, your survivability skyrockets. And once your survivability increases, your ability to influence the mid and late game becomes drastically more consistent. Hidden information is not a disadvantage. It is a strategic input. It forces you to think proactively instead of reactively. And at the highest levels of play, the players who treat hidden information as part of the decision matrix outperform players who require visual confirmation before acting. This is the difference between walking into torpedoes and preemptively turning out. It's the difference between being radared in the cap and waiting for the radar cycle before committing. It's the difference between being ambushed by a submarine and denying their angle entirely. And that wraps up the countdown for Part 2. These 5 mistakes: burning damage control too early, target fixation, misreading pressure, playing your ship instead of the lobby, and not accounting for hidden information are some of the most impactful decision failures in the entire player base. If you can start correcting even one of these, your survivability, damage consistency, and win rate will immediately trend upward. If you correct all 5, you will start playing in a completely different tier of decision making. Thanks for watching, I do appreciate it, and please feel free to click on the videos on your screen for more World of Warships content. But as always, take care, stay safe, and I wish you all the best. See you in the next one, and bye for now.